I haven't decided yet, actually. I thought I was going to leave it to the guests to decide, but
Ooh, okay, so which of these three paths?
this definitely goes for a while. I don't know how far this path goes, in all honesty, but
This path goes to like, let's go to
okay, cool. Oh God, maybe best not to say that on camera. Oh, don't worry, I'll edit that out.
I was
in
about,
post.
yeah, I trust your editing.
I got you. Just for like, if I don't catch that, remind me. But
Yeah.
I'll try to edit that out. But yeah,
Alright.
excellent. So this is the first episode of what I'm trying to call Ambling through Amherst at this point. So it's a very simple concept. It's literally just sourcing some of the most like interesting and perhaps like bizarre individuals from Amherst College and perhaps like beyond, to just come on, like talk about who they are. Kind of like inspired by Nordor a little bit.
Nardwar! Oh my gosh.
Big fan. Big fan, dude. But yeah, like I unfortunately do not have the resources to extensively research the people beforehand, and that's perhaps for the best or for the better for this kind of show, because don't want to you can't like assume this information about a person who's not a insane like celebrity or something like that. So I'm just gonna like start off and asking you who are you? You can answer this however you'd like, but what would you say to that?
My name is Ankit Sayed. I'm 19 years old. I am born in Charlotte, North Carolina. Spent most of my life in Long Island, New York. I am a Muslim, a Bengali by ethnicity, an American by nationality. I am a student of economics and religion. I write poetry in my spare time. I like to read. And that is summation of my identity for a lot of it.
Excellent. What grade are you in?
I am a sophomore at Amherst College.
Lit. So, how'd you come to the combination of majors that you have currently?
So, I originally came to Amherst intending to be an English major and considering some other major that was undecided, because Amherst lets you do that. Religion and I guess both of them came into being based on the classes I took during my first semester. I took an English class, an economics class, a religion class, and a first year seminar, which is not really a subject. So the English class is actually a bit of a letdown in that I kind of realized that I don't really want to spend my time writing and talking about other people's books, and how much urge nor talent to write creatively. But the other two things I studied drew me in for very different reasons. Religion drew me in because I'm, I guess, fairly religious, practicing Muslim, from a very religious household, religious culture. And Islam, I realized that academic study was very larger than I thought it could be. And it gave me a lot of joy and purpose to study Islam, because it felt like I was studying parts of myself. Through like the wider Islamic world, and in different ways too, because it's different than what I could imagine. And economics captured my imagination for a different reason, and that was because it was something I knew nothing about before coming to college, absolutely nothing about. And I realized that among the social sciences, it was the most quantitative, and it seemed to me to be honestly the bravest, because it sought to answer big questions about society, to really make an impact on the lives of individuals and governments, to solve problems of hunger, and poverty, and inequity, and injustice, and did that in a very complicated way, with the benefit of having good practical applications compared to the other social sciences. It just, felt like I really liked it.
Excellent. Why are you interested in going to a liberal arts college, and do you currently feel like you're taking advantage of the liberal arts curriculum?
Funny. Funny you asked that, because I was thinking about this. My parent, I have a friend who just transferred to Columbia, I think, or transferred to Columbia, and my mom was like, it's funny that, we never talked about transferring. for you. Not that I really would, but she's like, oh, it wasn't really an option for you. And I wonder in things I study, how my education would be different. Like if I was an economics student at another school, probably a lot more quantitative way of studying. Lots of just bare math problem sets. A lot less of this kind of nuance, human nuance we get in some of our classes. This willingness to discuss the ramifications of colonization and the ideologies that pervade economics. And from a religion perspective, oh god, studying religion at a non-liberal arts school can be anything from Liberty University's Bible class to a highly technical curriculum, like highly scholarly curriculum, or just like pretty bad at like a bigger school where it's just mostly just a gen ed major or a gen ed course requirement, one or two majors. So I'm really glad. I think the things that I study are really benefited by a liberal arts curriculum. They give me a lot more human nuance, a lot more subtlety to what I study, and a willingness to apply other disciplines. In terms of taking different subjects, which is what like classically people think about if they take open curriculum, I'm actually not the greatest example of that. I mostly concentrate in economics and religion, and take sort of ancillary courses, supplement that courses in, histories of the kinds of places I study, math to supplement economics, stuff like that. But, I mean, the fact that I take both probably is indicative of a liberal arts curriculum, so I'm doing a good job. I'm very happy I'm in a place to do it.
Interesting. Something that has stuck with me was what Austin Surratt said in my freshman year in like a virtual lecture, which is that like he discouraged people from double majoring because it prevents them from taking advantage of the liberal arts curriculum. What do you think about that statement?
I recall that. I heard that from him face to face on a faculty tour he gave with the students. You can sign up for those. And he asked everyone for their majors, and I said, economics and something else. And he gave me this weird look. He's like, oh, one of those. And I don't know. He's been around a long time. And he's known a lot more double majors than I have. But I have no regrets of my chosen path. I think that if I want to gain proficiency in something, I should take enough courses to major in it. Religion, if it's my chosen field, is something like a primary major. I'm glad I majored in it. It's like, well, I'm going to major in that because I dedicated enough time to really get some good work done. But for the second part of why I majored, or another one, it's like, you take lots of different kinds of courses. You're a pretty well-educated individual. But what it means to be well-educated is like the classic, like, classic liberal arts curriculum of, let's say, a prep school or a high school. It's just rooted in like classics, grammar, Latin, stuff like that. You can be you could be a non-double major and only take random ass writing courses that are very different from one another. So, in terms of developing a skill, it doesn't happen as much. And, a family friend of mine who is a retired economist from NYU told me that he always said I should be an economics major, and I thought of his advice after I am an economics major, which was that he thought I would be a good econ major because he thought I would learn a skill. And maybe that's contrary to the Amherst experience, but it has always been a point in my head that I have to become someone who can do something that I could not do before. I have to learn skill. And without really a double major, it seems a bit harder to do that beyond the general reading, writing, analytical skill you pick up both in college.
True. Nice. I don't know if you have a particular answer to this question, but who would you encourage to learn about religion, whether in the major form or otherwise? And what are compelling reasons to major in religion in particular?
So, Well, that's a question of 3 parts. First, I think everyone should learn about religion in some capacity. I think that there is almost a neglect of religion in our sphere. In that if you learn, even let's say, the basics of the Bible, basic biblical parables, you'll see that your ability to understand American literature in the ways we conceive of morality, sexual morality, of relationships, of the dynamic between father and son and sibling, of the enslaved and the powerless, and rooted in Christian frameworks. And it makes you very conscious of, the sort of like this American Christian ethos that we don't think about. We take separation of church and state for granted, but it's not as clear. I think it makes you a lot more conscious American to do that. And beyond that, it can be greatly fulfilling to learn why other people gain meaning from the things they do, even if you do not yourself. My parents have always raised me to have a great respect for priests of any religion, even though Islam has no priesthood, because a priest is someone who's dedicated his life, his or her life, to something massive, a religious undertaking. And I have a great respect for someone that dedicates their life to any calling. And a priest is no different from a carpenter. He spent his whole life mastering his craft, in my opinion, if he has truly dedicated himself to that way. From the perspective of the scholar, of the student of religion, religion is a very, very complex topic. It has a lot of the rigor of philosophy. It requires you to write very precisely, requires you to think precisely, to not make assumptions about what people believe, to articulate your definitions and your terms, to not say that one person believes this way. Belief is not something you can inherently assume people to have. The study of religion is filled with scholars picking at each other's definitions and critiquing each other's methodologies because it's not perfect enough. And something that has always existed in the human mind, in human history. There's always something you can study with any civilization. There's always a religion to look at, to see how it interacts with the history and the economic realities of a society. And finally, why someone at Amherst College should major in religion. I'd say that majoring in religion exposes you to, if we say that, I mentioned this to you over the phone just recently. There's a line in the Quran that says, that God says, I have created you as nations or tribes so that you may know one another. To know another person's religion is a deeply, deeply personal thing. For someone to come to a Muslim and say, Assalamu alaikum, is a very touching thing. And it's one that will earn you love in much of the Muslim world, regardless of what your belief is. And to understand others' religions and the ways we practice, understand parts of humanity that we may even, without understanding, we may find repulsive or disgusting or abhorrent in the ways they treat women or LGBT people or people we don't see. But to study these things is to give humanity a bit of empathy, to understand why people do what they do. It's also a fine major, fine department, amazing faculty who will give you lots of love and time. Is that a good answer?
Oh, that's a great answer. Sorry, let me just type this out, just so, because my fans are kind of freezing, but I thought it would be interesting. In the meantime, what do you specialize in, religion-wise? If you could say that you have, like, a specialty.
Well, the easiest thing is Islamic studies, hands down. I work for Professor Farid Jaffer, who's the resident Islamist at Amherst College. I love Islam. I am a Muslim. It's the most important thing in my life, the most important marker of identity. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like I sort of realized, like, man, what else would I study? Within Islamic studies, I'm kind of not sure where I would go. It's been a lot of the process this next month is figuring out, do I go to Islamic philosophy, literary analysis, media studies, that may take some time.
Would you say you have a specialty like in economics, or are there just like
No.
general areas that interest you?
There are areas that interest me. I think I'm more a macro guy than a micro guy, in that I like studying large scale movements and taking economic history classes is interesting. I like thinking about how societies have developed economic systems as supercultures and how culture and economics intersect. I'm biased with religion. I think about how things like capitalism and American Christianity have intersected, how the idea of productivity and religions have intersected with various religions, but not really much economics. Economics I do mostly to become proficient in the study of economics. So there's this famous quote, I forgot who the economist is, makes me sad, and she's a famous female economist, but she said that the only reason I became an economist is to not be bamboozled by other economists. And I sort of realized kind of what I wanted to do is just understand. But yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. What are some of the favorite, like your favorite classes you've taken at Amherst, and what would you like particularly recommend that like stick out right now?
Yeah, of course. A big stickout was philosophy of religion with Professor Andrew Dole. I loved that class. That was a class filled with difficult concepts, with some complex, chunky readings. We have pretty much 3 units. The soul, God, and multiplicity of religions, like why are there multiple religions? It was a class that required you to analyze theories, discuss the arguments. Professor Dole is a great professor, an amazing lecturer. He's very good at explaining these often very wordy philosophical treatises in easy to understand ways, with lots of animated examples. Animated, I don't mean like visually, with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. It's good to understand. It can be a difficult class for some people if they are religious or questioning their religious beliefs in a way that is. What's that way? What's that way?
Oh, that allows you to walk along the lake. I think it takes you to like the playground. I think if you walk along it for a while.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll do like another seminar class. But I feel weird just saying one. I think of another one that was really good. But I have only taken 3 semesters of classes.
Fair.
Honestly, when it was a freshman seminar, reading Asian American and the things I learned in that class still kind of stick with me. I didn't expect much out of first year seminar, but being Asian, being South Asian, an identity that is not commonly understood as the Asian American. And within being South Asian, I am Bengali, which is a part of the South Asians that are not really thought about as part of the South Asian experience as a whole. It was good. It made me think a lot about myself, which is good for a first year to think about. Like that reading, I still think Yellow is one of the best readings I've ever read in a college course, or any course I've ever taken. Because Yellow is, I guess it's what you're say. It's a short story about a Korean American boy who becomes a Korean American man named Daniel Kim, and his love life and his professional life, and his journey to finding himself, or maybe not finding himself, and reckoning with his Korean identity and misshapen self-image. I loved it because I had lots of angst around that time being Asian. Do you want to go this way? I've never been down here.
Oh, sure. Do
you mind?
Not at all.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah.
You're good. I'm good.
Shit, man, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is pretty slippery. Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's right here. It's here. Unless you want to go down, keep going down the restaurant.
I don't mind either way.
Are you alright? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Because I know this is like, it might be harder to record if it's like uneven terrain. Just last chance.
This trail, I might have gone down this one. It could be pretty uneven, but...
Yeah, it's icy.
Okay,
Probably
cool.
not the idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring better shoes next time. Didn't really account for that.
No worries at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, yellow was something. A lot of readings about the Asian were a good start to Amherst. The start to thinking about myself as not just, you know, myself as like someone from New York, you know, from a Bengali family, but my own individual, with my own sense of who I am from identity perspective. Yeah.
Do you feel like the class would have benefited from more like South Asian perspectives? Because I don't remember there were that many. I feel like it was more East Asian.
There really were many. We had
size.
like a couple articles. Maybe we should write like a Jopalari short
Yeah.
story. That would be very nice. I mean, I can't blame Professor. A lot of the Asian American dialogue is East Asian. They've just been here longer. Yeah, it would have helped, but you know, it is what it is.
Sure.
Maybe this is just me being passive, but yeah, it really didn't strike me as much, you know. But that concerns me. It's funny you say that. That's one reason I never really joined the ASA. ASA became active in it because no one there looked like me. It didn't seem like a place where people that would be.
I mean, there's like the South Asian Student Association, right?
Lit. I love
Yeah,
that.
so I guess that like, you know, really takes the place
Yes.
of what that should be. Even though like, I guess like they should be one organization technically, like, because I mean, Asian is like like a broader categorization. I don't know.
Think it is, but I really don't think they can feasibly.
Yeah,
do
that's
that
fair.
because
That's fair.
There's just not much continuity. I think historically, like your people and my people have not had much, have not
Interaction, yeah.
Well, their interaction.
Or, like-
they haven't seen each other as some cohesive whole. It's kind of
Yeah, true.
bonkers.
True. Yeah, I guess that like, you know, yeah, I mean like Pan-Asianism like was like a big idea in the, you know, like seminar, but I guess it didn't necessarily extend to like Southeast Asians,
Yeah,
it seemed.
it's mostly East Asians.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. Kind of whack.
That's alright.
Did you enjoy intro economics, would you say?
I loved intro. Jun Ishii.
June.
My guy.
What a guy.
God, please don't put Jun.
Oh god. Maybe. We'll see.
Oh god.
I don't know if you'll watch this, quite frankly.
Someone
but,
else might.
Mm.
I would kindly ask to not put Jun.
Okay, I'll omit all instances of like the spoken like. Yeah, remind me.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love intro. It was a great entry into economics. With a professor who I like really thought like, man, this is the kind of dude I really expect when I came to this college. Someone who's like big personality, amazing lecturer, a little eccentric, actually pretty eccentric. Someone who had just so much love for what he did. It was so palpable that he lived and breathed economics. And that he really had faith in the power of economics to do great things. And how, you know, in the classic Amherst fashion, economics is part of a larger whole. And remember this quote, this one thing he said. We're talking about affordable healthcare and single-payer healthcare. He said, as an economist, I know that single-payer healthcare costs more, you know, for the government. But as a human being, I know that it's worth doing so. You know, that is a kind of approach to economics which I think is very honorable and something I'm glad I was introduced to early, and it intro to me feel like almost a worthy pursuit.
Good to know. What music do you like listening to broadly? Like any like artists in particular that you mess with lately?
Lately or just in general?
Both or whatever you'd like.
I have a Hall of Fame list.
It's pretty fire. It's pretty long though, so I don't know all the artists, quite frankly. Should look through it.
If I have to say, I think I'll list like some like I guess top 5 or so albums I've always enjoyed. I honestly might say my top album of all time is Disintegration by The Cure. I was raving about that to you over the break. That album is a masterpiece of emotion. The title just captures this feeling of you get when you feel just too much, or it's too much, you just want to fall apart and break. From the very first line of the title of the title track, which is I miss the kiss of vanity, the endless kiss of treachery. It's just like this wanting to just be dumb and young and do bad things. It's so good. Other albums I love. The Stone Roses by the Stone Roses. Really good. Earworm album. Lots of great tracks. It's a fun listen all around. Porter Robinson's Nurture. I've been playing that a lot. For smaller albums, I don't know the name. I think it's Nerve. I want to say Among Authors. It's a very tiny indie rock chamber pop outfit out of Seattle. Their Tiny Desk concert is my favorite Tiny Desk concert. It's just a heart-wrenching piece of the series of music. Lucy Dacus' Historians, her sophomore album, my favorite one by her. Big fan of that. Phoebe Bridgers' Christmas album. The Oh Hello's Family Christmas album is just impeccable. It sounds like love. It sounds like warmth and all the things that make family. Aruj Aftab's Vulture Prince is like this neo-Sufi R&B. And that's favorite music, but one last one for the culture. Greatest Rabindranath Sangeet of all time.
Yes, sir.
Rabindranath Tagore is the Bard of Bengal. Bengali's greatest literary figure who has existed and probably will ever exist. They call him the banyan tree. You know what a banyan tree is?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, what about it makes him likens him to that? The permanence?
Bengali literature lives under his shade. That dude is insane. He's cracked. He's absolutely cracked. And his songs are some of the best written in Bangla language. And if you can find any volume of top of best written songs, they're just so good. They range. All of them are love-based. They just range from these playful, whimsical songs. There's one Anarima's dad's favorite song, Kumika Monkora, which is "How Do You Do It?" pretty much, where this. Well, it's all genderless because Bengali has no gender pronouns. Pretty much this guy, this person there is speaking about how they hear the song of their lover playing and it just drives them, and it's all they think about. They have these other songs. Oh my god, some really sad ones. My favorite Bengali song. It's called Amar Hir Majhut, which hits in my heart. And it is this sad song about someone who no longer has someone they love, but they only realized how meaningful that person was to them far after. How all they have is these slowly fading memories that hide away in their heart. Yeah, pop music, I guess.
Wow, good to know. What sports do you enjoy playing and watching?
Sports-wise, it's weird. I guess I sort of do sports to be healthy. I like sports for what they do, it's not the actual activity. I
Interesting.
love to swim. I really love to swim. I was alright in high school. If my parents like knew what sports were and thought they were important, and like they made me do it from a young age, maybe I'd be like an actually good swimmer. But I like it. I like going to the gym. I like picking up heavy stuff and putting it down. I can't pick up too much heavy stuff because I'm kind of small and frail. But one day, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I do frisbee here at Amherst. It's fun. It's a fun game. It's more beautiful than people say it is. I read this essay. It's weird though. One of my favorite politics newsletter writers. He plays for Isaac Saul. It's called Tangle. Great little newsletter. But he's a captain, a co-captain of one of the best ultimate frisbee clubs in the country, actually.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And he wrote that at night a basketball goes to sleep and dreams of being a frisbee. Because just so many ways it can go through the air. You can't really, hard to predict where it'll go. There's so much depth to the game. It's a very fast game. It has almost that speed of rugby and its turnover. Its quality and turnover. All of a sudden, it's more like basketball, I guess. How fast it can turnover from end to end. And I like the team here. I like the friends I've made. I like the culture and this welcoming attitude. I mean, culture, all predominantly white sports teams have problems culture-wise, but Frisbee's always been welcoming to me. I've been proud for that. Who was watching? It's funny enough. Well, football.
Yo, beautiful.
Go back, go. Ripped this season. Very sad.
Damn.
It was big rip. Actually, low-key, like a huge rip. I think got knocked out of the playoffs. Didn't make the NFC Championship. But, one day we'll be back. Hopefully before I die.
Hopefully.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Aaron Rodgers is probably on his way out. I don't think he'll stay around. He's too depressed now.
Yeah.
Also, the vaccine stuff is like not fun. To say the least. But
oh, thank you.
is this organic material?
I have no idea.
It's cotton.
Oh, okay. If it's completely cotton,
Yeah,
it's probably fine. Yeah, it could be like. I mean, you could check the tag if it's on there.
I know the scarf.
Okay, cool.
It's completely cotton. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Save the environment, kids.
Sure.
Okay. What else, Phil?
Do you have a favorite work of visual art? Would you say what interests you about visual art?
I love paintings. I really love painting. I never got to sculpture really. Just, I don't know. I think that a painting to me is beautiful in the way that a two-dimensional image can create both a three-dimensional perception as well as this memory. It doesn't really have dimensions. You don't have all memories are kind of 3D. But they can evoke beautiful qualities of color and depth, perspective. My favorite painting is Christina's World by Andrew Wyeth. I love it because, unlike some other paintings I dearly love, like some of Van Gogh's work, it's kind of muted, faded. The brightest color in the painting is this faded pink of the woman's dress. The subject of the woman is a woman. The subject of the painting is a woman that can't walk. She's kind of propped up very awkwardly on her elbows. You see this spindly nature in her arms. And the way the grass moves, you're forced to almost follow her eyes. You look around, you look up at the house, you look past the sideline, as if you're seeing how far the distance goes. And the woman has this resigned crick in her neck. But regardless, you can't stop thinking about it. It's beautiful. Andrew Wyeth just put his head in the grass and look at grass. His grass isn't just green, it's brown, orange, and yellow. Tiny, tiny bit of red and blue if you have the right plants. thistle, clover, and all these other things that make up grass. His grass looks like grass. He's more realist as painters go, and I respect that about him. I think that's a painting for me that screams how he wants to show realism for the sake of showing real people's lives and the small hardships that make up a far larger hardship that is existence. And that painting makes me think of my mother and all mothers. The hard lives that women have to live. I, in my status as a man, don't have to live as much. It's a thoughtful painting. I would rather a painting that makes me think that makes me happy.
Interesting.
Not the two are exclusive necessarily.
Good to know. Check it's recording. Yeah, it's recording. Thank God. Oh, the battery's running low. I don't know if you can point to, a time in particular, but would you say there's a time or a moment where you really got interested in poetry? I'd say.
I'm not really sure. Probably high school. Poetry out loud is something we did in 9th grade. And I definitely liked more than some other kids. I remember kids always complaining about poetry as when you started throwing it at you at school. And I never complained. I always thought it was kind of cool. Then I started writing poetry when I was around 15, 16, and it was absolutely terrible. Oh my god, I can't, it's bad, very bad. And now I sort of write juvenile poetry that isn't as bad. But yeah, it hasn't been some people I know who write poems, they talk about poetry as something that's always been there, or that suddenly changed their life. But for me, it's just, I kind of feel bad saying this. It's kind of it's a minor hobby, Something that it's my artistic outlet. I don't have much visual art talent, not musical. I can't dance, not athletic. So the outlet I have has been the words. I've always wanted even to myself, to God, and I guess I started writing poetry and started being able to recognize my emotions. That came, pretty recently, in the last couple of years or so.
What do you like in poetry? Or what do you think makes a good poem?
A good poem is something that where you have not experienced what the poet is speaking of. Or maybe it's something you can't really experience, yet it brings a sensation to you that you can't exactly place. A good poem sticks with you, digs into you, and makes you empathize. I think the beauty of poetry is making us think more about our lives. It's making life mean a bit more to us. And I think about an example of that. I'm pretty young, right? I'm not facing death. I'm certainly not Catholic. Yet there's the end of a poem called "All My Friends Are Finding New Beliefs" by a poet named Christian Wyman. And forgive me if I get this wrong, but I believe the ending is, "All my friends are finding new beliefs, and I am finding it harder and harder to keep track. The old gods, the new gods, the old loves, the new loves. And the mirrors have motors and days daggers, and the planets spinning faster and faster into the blackness. And my nights and my days and my friends are beautiful, beautiful friends." And my friends are still young. There haven't been too many old gods and new gods. Few, but Not too many old loves and new loves, not to the degree where I can feel age palpably. You and I aren't aging to the degree where we find it really harder to get up in the morning. If anything, it goes easier and easier. Our bodies are still coming into their strength, their vigor. But I still think about that poem a lot, so much at the end stuck with me. Because I feel...
So, sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
I feel for Mr. Wyman and the fact that he is getting old. He finds it hard to... He has to express both being old, but also the love of all the things that he's grown old with, all of his friends who he trusts and who he has seen grow and develop and fall as individuals. And as someone who tries to have lots of friends, and as far as I know, loves a lot of my friends, I can see myself one day loving my friends when I am old in that way. And it makes me think about coming into a condition where friends are meaningful in that way. And as someone who is religious, I think about the God in my life and how the way I think of God can adapt and change. And, whether I expect that to or not.
Do you have any prose authors that you really like?
Prose authors?
Yeah, just
I had a list actually, but I guess I love Ursula Le Guin, so I love fantasy and science fiction. I think they get underloved by serious literature. But fantasy and science fiction is what made me love to read. I really do suspect if you get to a lot of people that declare themselves as literary people, that's what they loved too. I suspect that people tend to love fantasy more than we make it out to be. But Ursula Le Guin is one of the masters of science fiction. She writes characters that are simple yet beautiful and very human. Their motivations are subtle yet strong. I recommend The Left Hand of Darkness as a book that makes men think about what it means to be a man, and women think about what it means to be women, and anyone think about gender as a construct, and biological realities of sex. It's a great book. Also in science fiction, one of my favorite books is Hyperion by the author Dan Simmons. It's a collection of short stories with a larger frame story that's run the gamut of science fiction. Horror, mystery, comedy, just some deeply loving, tragic pieces. It's a treat. It's a real treat to read. How to Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mukhtar and Max Gladstone. It's a collaborative novel, a science fiction epistolary novel. It's a sapphic lesbian love story that spans time. I don't even understand what half of the sci-fi stuff is they're going on. They sort of just say it's pretty much just there's one agent, one from the biological genesis of life, from extra, and the technological singularity of intelligent life at the other end, and they fall in love. I don't know how that works. I don't think we're intended to know how that works, but it's a good book. I recently read A Little Life by Hane Yanagihara. That was a sad read, a dark read, but a book that made me think about mortality and think about finding meaning in love and life and suffering. It's a book that's almost an ode to suffering and how suffering pervades our lives. What else? I liked Nabokov, classic literature. Pale Fire was a book that consumed a large portion of my high school experience, a large portion of my senior year. There's probably some other stuff I could mention. There's definitely other stuff I could mention. But those come to mind. Oh, finally, I was just thinking about this with my friend Liv. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss is like the closest read I can get to chocolate. That I honestly don't know if it's a good book by what a quote good book is, but man, that book has a place in my heart. That book is that's love. That book is something. I've read it 15 times. It is a college. It seems like it's a very simple thing that no one else really done. That, why have Magic High School? We can have Magic College. But just that little twist where the character's slightly older, slightly more mature, where their dumb antics are not like childishly dumb, but to have that spark of college ingenuity, and your college students daring, that is just, it's something else. The way that Rothfuss writes his main character's love for music and love for his friends. There's this one bit where they're looking for an alchemical formula in the restricted parts of the library. Both is the main character, dumb name, yes, and his friends Simon and Fella. Fella is very attractive. Simon is attractive but doesn't know it. He's also very bit shy, and they spend weeks looking for this. Fella finds it because he's very smart. And, but it's in some other language they can't read. And they're like, oh no. But Simon's like, wait, I know this language. I read poetry in this language. And he composes a poem absent-mindedly. And the girl, Fella, looks at him with this slight shock and slight interest, and Rothfuss writes that all the time we spent was worth it for that one moment where she really saw him for the diamond that he was. And I read that and I felt this pang in my heart, and I know what he means. Nanigahara wrote a similar line in less flowery language, that the experience of the simple joy of watching two people you love learn to love each other. I guess I selfishly or so read to think about my own experiences, and those are some books that capture those pretty well. Yeah,
nice.
They're good ones.
How did you read Pale Fire?
I read it because we had to pick an author for senior year. This project to pick some author, and because I was kind of an arrogant ass in high school, I wanted to pick Nabokov. And the first Nabokov work I picked up was not Lolita, actually. It was Pale Fire. I read three works by Nabokov. I read Pale Fire, Despair, and Lolita at the end. Yeah. You can put your hand in your pocket. I can hold this and record because your hands are probably very cold.
Thank you. You're okay.
Yeah, but I read Pale Fire. What do you mean? How do you read it? I'm curious.
The order.
Front to back. First, I read the poem through. Then I would read the footnotes through.
Okay.
Then I read the footnote after I read the poem. Then read each footnote while reading it.
Did you ever purchase a second copy, or just go?
I purchased one copy. It was from the school library.
Okay, that's fair. Just curious.
I know Michael Konieczka has thoughts on how to read Pale Fire.
True. What did he say? I asked him this question, but I can't remember what his response was.
I'm not sure either. All I know is that Jun Ishii mentions Michael Konieczka a lot when talking about Nabokov.
It's very funny. Oh, June.
Oh, geez.
So Michael, no, he has some good thoughts about Russian literature as a whole. That's for sure. Greatly enjoyed that, man. What makes a person interesting to you? Like when you're listening to them talk, or hearing about them, learning about them, etc.
Do they have good stories? That's what I think about. Is like, when I say, "Oh, nice socks," can you tell me why you got those socks? Can you tell me, what about them spoke to you? Can you tell me a little story about, this loose thread or something? Tell me what you wore them on some hike or whatnot. Do you laugh? Do you have interesting facial expressions? Do you have a strange smile? Do you have cool friends? Have you been cool places? I guess I kind of stories. Yeah, just the stories. So what have you experienced, and how can you talk about it? I think you could have someone that lives in a cave that could have wildest stories.
How do you think you've changed as a person since coming to Amherst and sitting here?
I think that I have become more comfortable in my own skin, and realize I've become in my voice, not just in my actual voice, but how I speak, what I speak about, how I dress. A bit more solid. Like, I'm proud of a lot of my identities, and because I've sort of had to construct them, the fact that I'm Bengali, South Asian, but Bengali specifically, Muslim, and the kind of more intellectually oriented Western Muslim is something I have some pride in, and something that I am conscious of. The manner of my appearance, the style I dress in, the style I speak in, the friends I have. I'm always kind of like less apologetic about the whole thing.
Good to know. By the way, when do you want to turn back? Because I don't want to keep you. Walking for about.
You want to really?
We can turn back now because we've been walking for about 50 minutes, I think. So no, I don't want to. Yeah. Did you have any expectations for what your path at Amherst would look like? And did you have any goals pre-Amherst for what you wanted to do at college?
I mean, I wanted to be a literary critic before I came to college, and that kind of got thrown out the window. Expectation-wise, I honestly had not much. I knew it would be. I thought I would make friends, and I did make friends. If I'm being completely honest, I really had none. I didn't know what college is like. I didn't want to make undue assumptions. And I had a lot of faith in Amherst. I was going somewhere that I had wanted to go. I had faith in my research and my ability to know what was best for me in terms of college environment. And I was like, well, it'll happen.
Good to know.
I didn't think I'd be as social as I was. I guess I wasn't as much in high school. But the combination of not living at home and having to navigate transportation and parental permission to leave and stuff like that makes it a lot more conducive to being social.
No.
Also, the kinds of people here are a lot more like that. That's how I grew up with.
Okay. What's perhaps your, if you could, name one, what would be your weirdest friendship? Most unexpected friendship?
Most expected or unexpected?
Unexpected.
In some ways, honestly, me and Jackson, I think the fact we're so close is a bit strange. That's something to think about. I'm like, we're so different in personality. It's like he can be reserved when I'm not. I'm religious. He's not. He likes booze. I don't. But I think because we're different, in the zoo they were saying that every friend group has someone who talks to someone who listens. And I think Jackson and I fill those parts.
Interesting.
Other friends, Alo and I get along very well. Just look at us. But I'm glad he's a good guy. A lot of respect both ways between us. I'm not sure beyond that, you know? Maybe not. Eloise and I are similar-ish. We're very similar in personalities. That makes sense.
Interesting. What draws you to people in general?
Seems like an interesting question. Interesting person question. And that I like interesting people. People that, like, I actually catch my people. I think a higher tolerance for assholes on other people because it's like, sometimes it's just funny to be around. They're just fascinating. Fascinating people get me. People that accentuate qualities. People who are really bubbly or really kind or really funny. Just that really funny. People that have something that I can study and just revel in.
Do you think Amherst selects for those kinds of extremes? What do you say?
I think any selective institution probably will, because the nature of an admissions process where you don't have much time to make an impression is one that will select people that can make impressions quickly. And those are people that have either done impressive things or things that stand out. I suspect one of the things that drew me to Amherst was, based on the little note I got from Williams, was a lot of the service I did in high school. Service for my mosque and for hospital. My essay was religious in character. It was about faith and what faith does to people in the hospital. And I would think of a hospital as a place where you just stick drugs in someone, but in reality, a lot of faith, every patient needs faith. A patient without hope is a dead one.
What gives you hope?
Gives me hope. In the Islamic sense, I guess when I say God, I think God gives me hope. And I say God not just to me like there's some dude, some Yahweh in the sky, but the Islamic God is not an anthropomorphism. That's something important to realize. That the Islamic God is one where constant anger and sadness are its heuristics for us to try and comprehend. And whenever we fail in doing so, see, the Islamic God is the one that brings the rain and, raises plants and causes orbits to happen. From the smallest speck of comet dust to the redwoods in California, it's all God, same God in the Islamic conception. And so I have this almost poetic, this faith in the beauty of all of it. I think that's one of the reasons I believe in God, is because I decided to think that there is a system. There is some kind of beautiful nature to all the coincidences we see around us. A book that describes this in a very humanistic way, I think, is The Unbearable Likeness of Being by Milan Kundera, who describes how people in our relationships to each other choose to love and love. You can see as coincidences where you lead to someone who physically attracts you, then you have sex with them, and sometimes you sleep with them because it's better, and stay with them because it's better for your overall lifestyle. But how, sometimes we think we add beauty to this, we inject meaning into them. And I take meaning from existence. The fact that it's a beautiful day, that the leaves have almost fallen off the trees, and we're in the orange shade of winter. The orange shade of winter. It's gorgeous. And it's cold and the snow's gone, and I think it's so much meaning in it. I think it's all the work of God. Like God's hands in all of it. It gives me hope that no matter what bad happens, there is something behind it, someone putting it all together. a weird source thing of the Percy Jackson had this line where Percy was in the labyrinth of book 4, and he met another son of Poseidon from ancient Greek history, and he beat him in a fight, and he said that guy was terrible. He would sacrifice skulls to Poseidon, and either Annabeth, I think Percy thought that, sometimes the ocean is warm and loving, but sometimes it's cold and cruel and kills sailors. But it's just the ocean, sometimes you just look at it and you can't see anything. And if that's the ocean, that's one tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of the work of God. So yeah, that's kind of why I have hope, because I believe in God. I choose to believe in beauty, and the poet and the poetic nature of existence is a kind of pretentious way to put it. But yeah.
Interesting. What is love?
What is love?
That's a hard question.
Maybe love is. I think love requires other people. You can definitely love a thing, but you love that thing because of what it does to yourself. Maybe, I don't know. Kind of difficult.
It's fair.
Maybe love is just. I'm not sure. I can say what examples of love. I'm trying to think of what they all have as a common denominator. Maybe it's a willingness to sacrifice. Willingness to give of yourself, whether it is for a passion, for a craft, for a person, for a concept, for an ideology. Maybe because we sacrifice and we gain no real benefit from that thing except the pleasure of it. I think of love and compassion in the same breath.
What do you think? Like, do you have any general thoughts about finding love in college? Like, what would you say to people who are interested in doing that? Is that the place to find love? Would you say? Is it a place to find love? I guess.
Amherst is a great place for you to fall in love. I think this college, partly because the people are so cool, wonderful people. First advice I'd say is to love your friends. Before you want to try to love, romantically love your friends, it's worth so much more. Any sliver of romance I've gotten, it pales in comparison to the sheer love I've gotten from my friends. I love my friends here, man. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life. All of the boys, you, Jackson, Jeff, Martin, etc. And then other friends, Eloise, Kobe, Myra, some of the Frisbee guys, Liv, Jack. I adore them all, really. And they're people who I feel like I could depend upon, people who I trust and respect. And that is worth a lot. But in terms of the romantic part, I mean, it's always a good place to start, is that it's finding people who you could do things for, right? Michael Keating, who graduated, very good man. He was like, it's not that deep, when you romantically like someone. There'll probably be someone you're interested in, who you're talking to. You just say look, I want to go on a date with you. I want to start seeing you, spend time with you, whatever. Yeah. And it's kind of making friends anyway. Similar processes. So I think it's not that deep.
Interesting.
Right. Just let it happen.
Interesting.
And don't let it consume you. I've made that mistake. It's not a good place to be. There's no one any favors, let alone least of all yourself.
You know, you're an unusually empathetic and, I guess, open person. How do you, like, is that something you consciously try to cultivate, throughout whatever you do? Or do you think, like, parts of your upbringing have facilitated that sort of aspect of your personhood?
Being open?
Yeah, being open, being honest, being willing to be vulnerable with other people. Stuff like that. I don't know.
A few things. One,
could you hold this for a bit?
Sure.
My hands are fucking cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One, I can be fairly naive, I think. I think I was raised in a pretty sheltered household where my parents didn't really hurt me emotionally. So there's not much I'm closed off for, I never really had much reason to be emotionally closed off. There wasn't much consequence for that in my household. I've been in a place where love has been expressed very frequently. I've been told I've been loved almost every day of my life. So it just seems natural, but it seems unnatural not to. Additionally, I actually have a tendency to lie. Something I haven't just talked about much. I find it easy to lie. And a conscious way I avoid that is to force myself to be honest and open, to not give myself avenue to lie. If lying is fearing something, it's fearing the truth, then just gotta throw it out there, not give myself a chance to think about it. Also, Amherst is a really easy place to be vulnerable. Like, people aren't gonna, compared to, random suburbia, shit's not gonna happen to you here. Like, what? You tell someone, man, I cried last night. If I can get beat up or laughed at, you really won't. Not most, even some of your most aggressive masculine guys. I just look at you weird. They don't berate you. I don't think it's particularly difficult. For me, at least, We all have our own problems. We all have our own things, but I have never found it hard.
How do you want people to think about you or view you? Or even remember you?
This is one of my job interview questions.
Oh,
funny. I want them to remember me as someone that made them happy, I guess. Someone who was open for others, someone who loved them. Think of my mother, and that's how I want to be remembered. Being famous is kind of I don't really care. It's I want to be a teacher, I'd say, to teach, to be a professor, because I can generate relationships with students that will hopefully who will remember me for what I did for them. Hopefully I can do so, I can give them meaning, that I can give them some knowledge that will help them in their lives, and that I can have an impact, and that I can change the lives of individuals. And that's one of the reasons I try to have so many friends, is so I can be remembered as someone who loves others. Who loved others in their time.
Interesting. Do you think that's a particularly important trait for a teacher to have?
Yes. Extremely, extremely. My mom says you cannot have... My mom's a teacher for Bangladesh and teaches little kids now, on the weekends. She says that a teacher who doesn't love their students is not a teacher at all. That teaching is an act of love. It's an act of wanting to share with your students what you love.
As a teacher, what would you want to impart upon your students? Or, even as a parent, eventually, what would you want to impart upon your children, if you have any?
I hope I do all of kids. Well, depends on what I teach. The material is important to get through.
True.
But I want to teach religion because I want kids to be able to have some conceptual tools for giving their lives some purpose and some beauty beyond just money and material possessions. I want them to recognize the immaterial for my children because I have more control over, what they get, not just a classroom, how they live. I would want them to become empathetic, almost altruistic people. It is, the sole duty of a parent, in my view, to raise good men and women. To me, that is tied with religion, though it's not for everyone. I want my kids to be good Muslims. I think a good Muslim is someone who is that. A good Muslim is someone who will give you the shirt off their back. It's for someone for whom wealth has no meaning except what it does. Someone who fears nothing except the fear of God.
Do you have any really big influences that you've never met in your life and may never meet?
You mean like people?
Sure.
Oh, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Yes, sir.
He's dead. I am not sure beyond that, if I'm being completely honest.
Fair. Yeah.
Maybe some of the authors and stuff I've read, over the years have really influenced me. Marcus Aurelius and his Meditations is a book that's influenced the way I think about the problems in my life. Yeah. Sorry I couldn't get you more on that front here.
Good. What do you think self-betterment looks like? If you could describe it or characterize it.
Self-betterment?
Yeah, I guess it's a vague.
Like self-improvement?
Yeah, sure.
A willingness to change requires some honesty and understanding the things you want to change and why those need to be changed for good reasons. Almost like a willingness to apologize, I think. Sort of like you apologize to yourself for not doing those things sooner and creating actionable steps to slowly and steadily improve. I believe in the human will to change. I think that we all can change and become better people. Just take some time.
How do we make things more equitable for people in general? Like, do you have any thoughts about that? At least with what you study, it can be anything tough. Really.
We need to eliminate the wealth gap. That's using capital to improve the education system. Education is the key, I think. It's always been key to creating a populace that is... Like, our education is the thing that doesn't teach us a thing, which is sad. It's so oriented towards skills that it doesn't teach anything at all these days. That there's legions of children who don't have good reading and math proficiency. Especially reading proficiency. And that's even more important than math, in my opinion, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Because, people don't realize that to teach someone how to think is you teach them how to think by reading good thoughts. And we don't have that ability in the children today, which can have terrible consequences for the future. And I think a lot of this is because people in power create almost a caste difference, this upper caste of people that perpetuate their decisions. Yeah, eat the rich, man. To be honest, as an economist, eat the rich. They do jack shit for us.
How do you resolve that issue? At least. It's obviously it's a very difficult question, but
the heavy taxation of inheritance, the heavy taxation of inheritance. What else? Capital gains taxes, dividends taxes, eminent domain, private property. Like, the super rich need to go. I have no problem with your people that have a couple of 10 million assets or 20 million assets. They're not that big of a problem. It's the super, super, super wealthy. The one where a single individual has the power of a minor nation. They gotta go. For the sake of all of us, they gotta go. I think billionaires have a right to exist, but I just don't think they should. You gotta take one for the team.
What do you think are the forces that contribute to creating the hyper-rich, say billionaires, etc.? Not only like economic, but also personal.
I don't think it's personal. I mean, like, there are people that work and just create ideas and allow them to be wealthy.
Yeah.
I have friends who like worship billionaires who think they're like gods because they became rich. I really don't think that's the case. They're probably very, very intelligent individuals, but I think that it requires a. I think that the system that allowed billionaires as a whole to develop are the kinds that allow billionaires to always develop are rich people. Unregulated capitalism and the exploitation of the exploitation of goods and like labor and proliferation of goods. Like Amazon exists because there was a need for convenient delivery of products, which makes sense, Jeff Bezos became super rich because he could do that super cheap, super fast because it's super cheap. Yep. And that's bad. Yeah, I don't got much there. I'm no expert.
Yeah, no worries. People use the term failed states sometimes to describe like certain parts of the world. What do you think makes a country successful in your opinion, or what do you want a country to aspire to?
I'm actually a pretty patriotic American because I believe that America has the potential to do great things. Your average, some liberals might point to like Norway or something, or Scandinavia. I, as a brown person, don't believe that's the case because those have very specific cultural and ethnic identity, which when you add immigrants to it, doesn't always jive with liberalism. I think that the American experience, the American project can succeed because it does not have, it has a rigid cultural identity that is subject to change. And I have faith in its ability to subject to change. It is inherently full of a diverse racial identity. I think that if we create an environmentally sustainable country where we educate our populace to the degree where we educate our populace so that people aren't as prejudiced, and we eventually have enough diversity where people live with people that don't look like them. The most racist places in America are places where people don't live next to people that don't look like them. Most people that hate a Muslim never met one. That's how it is. Kind of vague, but it's how it is.
What do you want to accomplish with the rest of your time at Amherst?
I want to do some banging research. I want to cement some friendships, hopefully be lifelong. Make some good connections with faculty. I want to have a community that can create memories on memories. Yeah, that's about it.
What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish throughout your life?
That's kind of vague.
Yeah, it's very vague.
Want some can I get some clarification?
Yeah, sure. I just, for example, like what skills you want to develop, and in what ways do you want to help other people, improve other people's quality of life, for example?
I want to write a book on religion that will hopefully just like some personal thoughts on religion that will let people give people an avenue to how to think religiously. I want to write some material on Islam, modern Islam. I want to hopefully teach, maybe at a school like Amherst, or hey, Amherst itself, who knows, that lets me have like lots of close interaction with students. That's important to me. I want to get married to a woman I love, who loves me back, and hopefully I hope to stay married for the rest of my life. I want to have children, as many as I can comfortably afford. I want to do Hajj. I want to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca. I want to speak Bengali as fluently as my parents, go to read as fluently as they do. I want to earn the pride of my mother and father. I think then I will have lived, inshallah, a good life.
Do you have any advice for example, current college freshmen and, rising freshmen?
Love. Don't be afraid to love things. The ex-president of Uruguay is famous for his personal simplicity. He said that the only thing you should ever be addicted to is love. Love what you study. Love other people. Love your family. Love who you are. Love where you came from. Never be afraid to love. It's always worth it. It's always, always, always worth it. And be sincere. Be sincere on whatever you do. If you are sincere, you'll never regret it. You'll hate it sometimes. You'll be like, why did I do that? But it won't ever last long because you knew that you thought you were doing the right thing. That's the two things I got.
What do you want to tell the world at large, if anything?
May Allah bless you all.
Excellent. Well, I think we're almost at the end of the path. So.
What?
Almost at the end of the path, I think. So I think that about covers it. That was wonderful. That was really wonderful. Thank you for, pulling up, sharing your story, walking all the way from the zoo up to here. How long did it take to walk here?
15 minutes.
Oof. Jeez. That's rough. Well, at least it's not as far as Marsh, which is 20 something, but still, that's rough. Jeez. Well, this was absolutely wonderful. Really great, pilot episode, I'd say. Hopefully we'll have some of the, logistical issues sorted out next time, but, this will be on YouTube. And yeah, make sure to, check out the other ones I make at some point, because they'll happen during the semester. I'll get busy and such, but, hopefully we'll have more guests on. And it'll be really, really fun and interesting, hopefully, in the future. Until then, stay well.
Stay well.